After watching this video, you're going to realize how easy it is to code any layout in CSS, even if you don't know CSS well enough. I'm also going to walk you through an example and show you how it works. Okay, let's get into it. When I see a web page like this, I only see two things. Okay, let me show you what I mean by that. Each web page is a bunch of rectangles. Like here you have a big rectangle. Inside of it you have another rectangle, another one, here and here. And even this empty space is essentially a rectangle. And in this case, these rectangles are stacked horizontally. If you look at this sidebar, it's also a bunch of rectangles stacked, in this case, vertically. So you get the idea, right? You have a bunch of rectangles stacked on each other. So that's one thing that I see in a page. Second thing that I see is alignments. How these rectangles are aligned relative to each other. For instance, in this main section, you see a huge rectangle, but this rectangle, this specific rectangle, you can see it's in the center of the page. You see this space right here and this space right here. So this rectangle is in the center of the page. That's the alignment. Or this sidebar, this whole thing, this whole sidebar is aligned to the left side of the page. So that's all I see in a page. When I see a page like this, I only see two things. A bunch of rectangles stacked vertically or horizontally, and a bunch of rectangles that are aligned relative to each other. So this is the only two things we need to see in a page. Okay, so in CSS, we have different types of display that we can use, right? We have block, we have flex, we have grid, we have all bunch of different things. So what's so special about flex? In flex, you have a bunch of rectangles that are stacked horizontally or vertically. And the second thing that we have in the page, the alignments, you can also define that using flex. You can see here, you can say all the elements are aligned to the left, all the elements aligned to the right, all the elements are aligned in the center. Even more complicated design like a grid, you don't actually need to use grid in CSS. You can just use flex. And you can design your whole page, like your header, your main section, the footer, the sidebar, anything, just using flex. So this is how the default behavior of the browser and HTML is. It's just a bunch of blocks on each other. Now, if I add display flex, you can see that now they're stacked horizontally. Let me show you how easy it is to do this layout using flex. You're gonna have your header, we're gonna have a sidebar. So we have a page, that's a flex, and we have a sidebar in the left and the whole content in the right. Now in the whole content in the right, we don't know how much this content could be, but we want this footer to be at the bottom, right? We can use the flex grow, which means grow as much as possible. So we always make sure the footer would end up being at the bottom. And even this stack thing, we have header, content, footer. You can use flex direction and change the flex direction. So even this block on top of each other, it's some sort of flex. So you can see how easy it is to code any layout using just flex if you think about the page the way I think. Now if we back to our app that we were coding in the last few days. So let's say we have this design. First thing that I see is a bunch of rectangle. This is the one. And you can see here I have this header. Then I have my main section, which is flex. That this whole thing is just a simple flex that are stacked on each other. And I have this card and this card, which is this one and this one. So you can see the whole page in my eyes is just a bunch of rectangles stacking vertically on top of each other. We can go a little bit deeper. And also these sections, they are a bunch of rectangles on top of each other. you can see it right here that when I run this code, I get this app, this header, this section, all of it. We have all the interfaces, and we can set the load balancer to any combination that we want. And when we start the server, you can see the log here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see the server is running. So the only few things, I added a few more things to the preload. If you remember, preload in Electron is like your backend. You can have your server, you can have your services. Like I have a SOX service that has set load balancer, starting, stopping, and showing the log. And here, this is our SOX code that we wrote in the previous video. We have our load balancer and everything is here. And this file exports 4 functions that we use in our preload to essentially connect to our UI. The last thing we're gonna do with this desktop app, we're gonna put it on GitHub, and we're gonna release different version for Windows, Linux, and Mac. And you can access the code, you can change the code, and all those good stuff. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this load balancer, this proxy, and desktop app, what I'm doing here, in the past few days, we're actually creating a desktop app that's going to increase your internet speed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we actually documented the whole journey of how we discovered this and how I code this with different languages and all that. I'm gonna put all the videos right here so you can see. And thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.